Hi, this is Uncle Mike with some help on answering true, false, and why statements on exams. First of all, let's take a look at how they're built. True, false, or why statements are worth 2 marks because they have at least 2 parts in them. If both parts are correct, it's true. If either part is incorrect, it's false. You don't get marks for choosing true or false. You get marks for telling us why you believe it's true or false. Now, there are many options in how to answer, and you have to do it in maybe 2 or 3 sentences. So let's take a look at an example. Here's one. A SWOT analysis identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to examine the general environment of a company. So first of all, identify the 2 parts. Let's take a look. In red, we have the discussion of the SWOT and strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. In purple, we have the examination of the general environment of a company. So is the red one correct? Yes, that does identify what a SWOT is. Is it used to examine the general environment of a company? No, that's false. Let's take a look at how we can answer that. So the first false, a SWOT does not examine the general environment, but rather the specific environment of a company. The red relates to the red. So now you're telling the person who's marking this why that's false. Now you can go one of 2 ways. You can continue with what's in the red by going down here. Strengths and weaknesses are internal, while opportunities and threats are external. So you're telling the marker that you understand this concept, and you should get full marks for that. In the second example, we've also used the red to connect to the red. It's the same answer, but here we've gone purple. Instead of talking about the SWOT, we're going to go to the second part, which is about the general environment. A PEST analysis is used for the general environment, and then we go on to talk about what it stands for. Another example. The PEST analysis includes economic factors as it focuses on the external environment of the company. Well, let's take a look at this one. PEST analysis includes economic factors. That's true. It focuses on the external environment of the company. That's also true. Let's take a look at a few ways to answer that question. Once again, notice that I've put the first part in red, the second part in purple. So, when I answer that it's true, economic is the E in PEST. I'm explaining the answer to that. If I want to continue talking about the PEST, it stands for political, legal, social, cultural, on and on. So I've used 2 parts of the red to get my 2 marks. In the second example, I once again have the red to relate to this, but I'm using the second part. It's talking about external environment, so I flip over to say about the external environment. It includes outside forces that can potentially affect the organization's performance. Once again, you can go either way with those 2 pieces. Let's try another one. Teams usually go through specific stages known as forming, storming, norming, and performing. Let's find the 2 parts. Here, this is a little bit different. Teams usually go through specific stages, that's correct, and these are the 4 correct stages. They were even in the right order, but I've given each one of them a different color because this allows you many ways to answer. Although you may think it only has 1 part, it actually has at least 4. Go down here. If I want to talk about forming, the forming stage is highlighted by friendly, back and forth, on and on and on about structure and norms. Then I move on to storming in green. When they start to assert themselves, conflict often occurs, and on and on. You can check that answer for more details. In the second one, I've started talking about norming. The norming stage occurs when they find where they fit, commit to the goal of the team. And then rather than switching to another piece, I continue with norming. Norms are behaviors that have, okay, so now what I've done is I've defined norms. So I've got both of my points out of just that one. And now here for the last one, I'm going to concentrate on storming. The storming stage usually has conflict among members, and on. Then it goes down here. It is common to return to a short storming stage. So I've made 2 points about just storming. So you can see there's lots of options on how to answer. One more example. When team members begin to disagree and face conflict, it is called punctuated equilibrium. The 2 parts. When team members begin to disagree and face conflict, it's called punctuated equilibrium. So those are the 2 parts. That's not right. We know when team members begin to disagree and face conflict, that happens during the storming stage. So I'll tell them that this describes the storming stage. If I want to continue talking about this, punctuated equilibrium models how teams tend to do very little until about halfway to the deadline. So there's my 2 points. Now in the second example, I've answered the first part exactly the same way. This describes the storming stage. Then instead of going to the second part, punctuated equilibrium, I've just stayed with storming. The disagreement and conflict is part of the members resisting constraints on their individuality. So in the last example, I've ignored the red one altogether and gone with punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated equilibrium models how teams tend to blah, 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 blah. Then I go on, this is most common among temporary groups with definite deadlines. I've shown that I understand this, even though I haven't touched on what the red is referring to. So I hope that this will help you with some ideas on how to answer true, false, and why statements. I'm Uncle Mike.